The world watched in horror as the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and his wife Sophie were brutally assassinated on the streets of Sarajevo on June 28, 1914. This tragic event marked a pivotal moment in history, setting off a chain reaction that would lead to one of the deadliest conflicts the world had ever seen. The assassination, carried out by Gavrilo Princip, a young Serbian nationalist, sent shockwaves throughout Europe. Princip, a member of the Black Hand, a secret society committed to Serbian nationalism, believed that killing the Archduke would further their cause. Ferdinand, a controversial figure, had become a symbol of Austro-Hungarian dominance in the Balkans, a region already simmering with ethnic and political tensions. His death was seen by many as a direct challenge to the empire's authority and a catalyst for change. The assassination was a spark in a powder keg. Austria-Hungary, seeking revenge and determined to crush Serbian nationalism, issued an ultimatum to Serbia, laden with demands designed to be unacceptable. The ultimatum was a calculated move intended to provoke a conflict that would allow Austria-Hungary to assert its dominance. Serbia, backed by Russia, refused to comply fully. The partial rejection of the ultimatum was enough to escalate the situation further as Russia began to mobilize its forces in support of Serbia. The intricate web of alliances that had been woven across Europe in the preceding decades began to unravel, pulling the continent inexorably towards war. Diplomatic efforts to resolve the crisis failed, as nations were bound by treaties and obligations that left little room for negotiation. Within weeks, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Russia, bound by treaty to protect Serbia, mobilized its vast army. The mobilization was seen as a direct threat by Austria-Hungary and its allies. Germany, allied with Austria-Hungary, viewed Russia's mobilization as an act of war and declared war on Russia and then on France, Russia's ally. The declarations of war came swiftly as Germany sought to preemptively strike its enemies. Germany's invasion of neutral Belgium to attack France brought Great Britain into the conflict, and the world was plunged into the abyss of World War I. The war that followed would reshape the world, leaving a legacy of destruction and change that would be felt for generations. August 1914. The guns of August roared, signaling the beginning of what was predicted to be a short and decisive war. The initial German offensive, sweeping through Belgium and into France, was met with fierce resistance. The Battle of the Marne, a brutal clash that raged for 6 days, halted the German advance and dashed any hopes for a swift victory. On the Eastern Front, Russia launched an offensive against Germany, but suffered heavy losses against the well-equipped German army. The war on the Western Front quickly devolved into a bloody stalemate. Both sides dug in, creating a complex network of trenches that stretched for hundreds of miles across France and Belgium. The trenches became a nightmarish world of mud, blood, and constant shelling, where soldiers faced unimaginable horrors. Life in the trenches was a horrific ordeal, a living nightmare that seemed to have no end. Soldiers endured relentless artillery bombardments, machine gun fire that could cut down men in an instant, and the deafening noise that never ceased, and the ever-present threat of sniper attacks. Disease was rampant, spreading quickly in the unsanitary conditions of the trenches. The psychological toll of constant fear and the loss of comrades was immeasurable, leaving many soldiers with deep emotional scars. Major battles, such as the Battle of Verdun and the Battle of the Somme, resulted in staggering casualties, with entire units decimated. Hundreds of thousands of men were killed or wounded for gains of mere yards, making the cost of war painfully evident. New technologies of war, such as poison gas, tanks and airplanes, added to the carnage but failed to break the deadlock, only increasing the suffering. The horrors of the trenches left an indelible mark on a generation, both physically and psychologically, altering their lives forever. The war, once romanticized as a grand adventure, was revealed to be a brutal and dehumanizing experience, shattering illusions and leaving a legacy of trauma. While the Western Front was locked in a bloody stalemate, the Eastern Front was a theatre of vast distances and equally brutal fighting. Russia's vast army, though poorly equipped, posed a significant threat to Germany and Austria-Hungary. However, Russia's early victories were short-lived, and they suffered devastating defeats at the battles of Tannenberg and Masurian Lakes. The Eastern Front was characterized by its fluidity and brutality. Vast armies clashed across vast plains, and the fighting was often more mobile than the static warfare of the Western Front. However, the casualties were no less horrific, and the war had a devastating impact on the civilian populations caught in the crossfire. Section 5. Beyond the Trenches, Global Conflict. World War I was a global conflict with battles fought not only in Europe but also in the Middle East, Africa and Asia. The Ottoman Empire, allied with Germany and Austria-Hungary, fought against Russia in the Caucasus and against British and French forces in the Middle East. Japan, allied with Great Britain, seized German colonies in China and the Pacific. The United States, initially neutral, entered the war in 1917 after German submarines sank American merchant ships. The entry of the United States into the war with its fresh troops and industrial might tipped the balance in favor of the Allies. However, the war had already taken a devastating toll on all sides. Hidden histories, little-known stories of the Great War. Beyond the major battles and well-known figures, World War I was a tapestry woven with countless individual stories of courage, sacrifice, and resilience. The Harlem Hellfighters, an African-American infantry regiment, fought with distinction in France, despite facing racism and discrimination. The Christmas Truce of 1914 saw British and German soldiers lay down their arms and meet in no man's land to exchange gifts and sing carols, a testament to the shared humanity that transcended the trenches. Women played a vital role in the war effort, working in factories, serving as nurses, and taking on traditionally male roles on the home front. Their contributions were essential to the war effort, and their experiences challenged traditional gender roles. The Armistice, a world exhausted. After 4 long years of unimaginable bloodshed and suffering, the guns finally fell silent on November 11, 1918, at 11 a.m. The world collectively exhaled as the end of the Great War brought a mixture of relief and sorrow. The armistice, signed in a railway carriage in the forest of Compiègne, France, marked the end of hostilities. It was a moment of profound significance, symbolizing the cessation of one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. The world had changed forever. Cities lay in ruins, and landscapes were scarred by the relentless artillery fire and trench warfare that had defined the conflict. Millions lay dead, empires had crumbled, and the political map of Europe had been redrawn. The war had left an indelible mark on the global stage, altering the course of history. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, officially ended the war. The lost generation, a generation of young men and women who had come of age during the war, struggled to come to terms with the horrors they had witnessed and the loss of innocence they had experienced. Their disillusionment and grief would shape the cultural and social landscape of the post-war world. The war to end. All wars, World War I was a watershed moment in human history, a conflict so devastating that it was dubbed the war to end all wars. Yet the peace that followed was fragile and short-lived. The legacy of World War I is complex and multifaceted. It was a conflict marked by technological innovation, military blunders, and political miscalculations. It was a war that shattered empires, reshaped the world order, and left an indelible mark on the human psyche. Learn more, explore the history of World War I. The stories of World War I are not just tales from the past, they are reminders of the human cost of conflict and the importance of striving for peace. To delve deeper into the history of World War I, We invite you to subscribe to the YouTube channel Classic Public Domain Audiobooks. Let us learn from the past, honor the sacrifices of those who served, and work towards a future free from the scourge of war.